Yo, what's going on, guys? Apex the Entertainer here. Long time no see. 43rd in the world currently for Grandmasters. Not thrilled about it. I've been struggling. I've been taking L's like nobody's business, and I felt like it was time to make a real ultimate guide to Clan Wars from a Grandmaster's perspective. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk basics. We're going to jump into each of the phases, and then by the end, you're going to see what it looks like in action as I utilize the boards that I've already created to attack the opposing team. Pretty strong team. I've saved up my energy. I've got just a little while left for me to approach it. So we'll see how long it takes to record because I need to make sure I do it in time, which we'll discuss as well. Now, just so you know, if you want to see how these boards were built, that's also some content for you. It was so much fun. It was such a ridiculously good time. And it was really good for people who are brand new to the game and trying to understand Clan Wars. So I wouldn't recommend not watching this one, of course. But once you're done watching this, go back to these videos below or to the right or wherever I put them. And you can go see how I built the boards that we're going to utilize at the end of the show. So super basic idea. Of course, Clan Wars is asynchronous, just like the rest of this game. That means that all the timing doesn't have to align. It doesn't have to be live fights. You're building up boards that you're going to utilize against this opposing team in whichever case it might be. It's set up bi-weekly, so you do 2 Clan Wars a week in which the players on both sides build up teams. The idea being a few key things. First of all, you want the best possible board that you have as far as confidence go. Now that could be all sorts of different kinds of builds, whether that's high stat, scam, multi-summon, all of which I'll deep dive on a little bit in a second here. That board that you're most confident in is going to be the board that you utilize as your defense board. Anything subsequent, including that defense board that you build, is going to be your attack teams, right? These are going to be the teams that you can utilize amongst the 6 energy you'll have throughout that bi-weekly clan war so that you can attack the opposing team. Now, it's important to note, everything's timed here. You have to make sure you do all of the phases in time. You have to utilize your energy in time. You got to do everything on time, okay? So don't mess around, all right? You're either in it or you're not in it. So get it all done on time, and everything goes smooth. Now, as far as kind of the advanced tactics, which I'll talk about at the end, it's worth noting early that you have limited energy amongst the entirety of the team. So communication is going to be key and variety is going to be key, right? If you want to get really good at Clan Wars, you need your whole team to be on the same page about what kind of boards you've built. If you have every single person just playing Scam and the opposing team just has a bunch of multi-summon, you're going to be completely demolished, right? And so, again, it's like a big game of rock, paper, scissors. So that's the part that can be a little difficult when you're newer. Find a good clan that cares about communicating if you really want to focus on Clan Wars. And then from there, make sure that there is variety and understanding that with limited energy, you have to be efficient. Get that variety, strategize, and execute. Last thing I'll mention is that you need 6 total dealers because this is bi-weekly. It's going to let you use whichever dealers you want. And you need 3 dealers per clan war. So by the end of the week, since you can't reutilize dealers you already used in the first portion of the week, you're going to need 6 in total that you feel fairly confident in. Now for me, that was very difficult because I just don't have the tenure, and I'm hoping for new players, this gives you guys a chance to understand that that doesn't necessarily have to be a big deal. If you can get a fair amount of confidence in 3 or 4 and really hyper fixate on 2, you probably have a good chance of doing something for your team. We can make you the star of the show if you really pay attention. So initially, as you get things started for your clan war, your focus is going to be, how do I build my defense deck, right? That's the dealer that I like to start with, is who am I most confident I can build something strong with. The idea here is to make sure you build something that is unkillable or something that can't be one shot, right? When I say one shot, it just means you can't be taken out with a single energy by the opposing team. That may or may not be realistic, but remember, the opposing team, just like you should be, is focused on having the lowest possible compression in efficiency, right? So it's, how do we use a board that can just barely kill this opposing board? So just because you think you don't have an unkillable board, maybe the people that they're choosing to attack with, they're confident in some way that they can beat you, but just enough to where you can sneak it in on them. That's the idea. The absolute best player on the opposing team isn't going to use their insane board on the absolute worst player on your team. So you're generally competing against somebody of similar skill level. You just have to figure out how to get that extra edge. So let's talk about the idea of what makes us a solid defense. So generally speaking, there's a few things that you're going to look for. This is kind of the rock, paper, scissors I was referencing earlier. So first of all, it's raw stats, right? So this is generally going to be something. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking high tier here. So don't freak out if this sounds unrealistic, because again, there are other approaches we can take, which I'll discuss in a second. You might play a different role than you want to in the beginning with your clan, but you're going to fill a role. That's all that matters. We've got a complex system here of moving parts that needs to work as a unit. With a raw stat build, you want probably at least 1,000 stats on each of your units with solid keywords, right? Whether that be cleave or multi-strike or barrier or whatever that may be, that's going to be something solid enough to kind of hold up against the opponent when it comes to just a raw stat build that you can use against something like multi-summon or other stat builds. So examples of that, right? Pretty much everything Barman right now is going to be like the key for stat builds, because this game does have power creep, right? So the newest dealer is almost always what you should be investing in for clan wars, and that's going to be your primary defense board. I know in my circumstance, my best defense board of the week is always going to be Barman, and that's always where I just focus on raw stats, because I know on all of my other builds I can focus more on multi-summons and scam because they have a lower barrier of entry, and they're still very integral into taking on clan wars. So other quick examples of high stat builds might be something like Thunk Elves, Xochi Gnomes. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that come to mind as far as high stats. So that's where you really just find what works for you, find the thing you just feel the most confident in, and that's going to be your defense board. There's also something called like the first hitters, right? So when it comes to a first hitter mechanic, there are dealers that have specific builds that will attack the opponent before they even have a chance. And there's a few things that can come to mind for that. Mortimer Undead has a really cool combo that I just found out about. Xochi Orcs, Seiya Dwarves. There's a few different things that stand out as far as combinations that can utilize that key mechanic. But before I hop in, I want to give you guys just a quick reference as far as kind of a tier list when it comes to clan wars, if you're not sure what stands out in each of those three rock, paper, or scissors that I mentioned earlier. So first, when it comes to raw stats, I said earlier, anything Barman. I still pretty much stand by that. The things that really stick out to me though, things that I've seen crush in raw stats, are going to be Barman Demons, Barman Dwarves, Gorm Dwarves, pretty vicious, just found that out when we got crushed last week. Xochi Gnomes, Thunk Elves. I like Tuck Pirates, but I guess Tuck Dragons is a call out. I haven't experienced that personally. But again, ultimately with raw stats, you're going to usually know this for yourself, because this is what you've seen hit massive stats. It's the build where you got really excited. That's your dealer you're most confident in if you want to set up a stat defense board. I actually kind of utilized everything this week. The only thing I'd say I don't really have a great example of is just a raw high stat build, but that was great because that's what made me feel like I could make this ultimate guide, because the high stat build is going to be kind of the given for you. The things that can throw people off are the multi-summons and the scam builds, which actually often go hand in hand. You usually kind of intertwine those two. In this case, this week, I have a phenomenal scam build. I have an okay stat build in combination with scam, and I have an okay multi-summon build. Certainly my weakest team this week. But yeah, we kind of hit all three. So I'm going to show you the full diorama of rock, paper, scissors. So as far as the scam tier list, the things that are going to stick out here are going to be things like Fiddle Demons, wink, wink. God, I suck at winking. Mortimer Undead. Again, they're kind of that mixed snipe build. I had a great scam build with Tuck Bear Scam. So those are a few quick examples of things that stand out, but there's scam integration for all sorts of different dealers. So feel free to do your own research, but certainly the lowest barrier of entry is going to be the Fiddle Demon build that I just made that video on. You already saw that reference earlier. That is a phenomenal video if you don't understand how to create scam in this game. Of course, I highly recommend taking a look. Sipu. So as far as multi-summon, Undead and Ninja are going to be the go-to here. They're the ones that have the very solid multi-summon high stat builds. Of course, Barman Undead is absolutely ridiculous with Sify right now. Mortimer Undead has all sorts of cool mechanics to integrate. It's something I tried to utilize and didn't really get ramped up, but I still have my multi-summon build with it, so I have something to counter those scam builds. And Ninjas are well known for doing exactly this. In combination with First Strike, I think ninjas are actually something that should be a really big focus in clan wars, because they can kind of do both, right? Depending on how they're built out. They could do a decent job against scam, because scam is going to be focused on killing X amount of units. So if you can surpass X amount, then it can't really do anything because they don't have the stats to support it. Often have my ninjas at least 1,000 stats per summon. Of course, Seiya and Zochi ninjas are going to be what I mentioned there. Solid multi-summon builds, but Barman Undead, if you can get confident with that, is outrageous. I've seen Sify builds with multi-summons of 4,000s, 4,000s, so super strong, consistent multi-summon option. And I'm just going to throw out a quick little tag, maybe an honorable mention for utility units that I want to make sure you're keeping eyes out for, right? There are multiple things that should come to mind when you think of this, but I'm just going to throw out two really quickly that can be really important in utilization to make sure you understand how to counter a specific build that doesn't seem to be beat easily by any of the three things that we listed. So a perfect example of this is anything gnome based where they have all their strongest units in the back, where you're going to have all sorts of struggles trying to get to them. That's where something like Get Over Here is going to be super solid. So, especially, I mean, when I think Barman Gnomes, because my Barman Gnomes are quite strong, it's a perfect example of how to just completely crush them. If they lose those primary units in the back, they're going to have a bad time, okay? Second, Golden Iceberg is something that stands out, right? Just a way to kind of freeze the units, avoid those kickstarts, because kickstarts can be something that can really hinder a build when it comes to Clan Wars. All right, that's all I got for you in the generalized breakdown of how Clan Wars works. Now we're gonna hop on into it so you can see these in action. We're going to the battlefield, folks. Okay, so in this case, I was procrastinating. I made sure to shoot a message out so I didn't freak my clan out. Communications key, we mentioned that earlier. There will be a quiz at the end. Stupid. Okay, so let's take a look at where we ended up. I haven't even looked at this board yet. So you can see that, again, this is where that team communication is going to come from. In between the video, I'm going to be probably referencing Discord and asking people things to make sure I'm not screwing up anybody's plans, but I'm in a fairly decent spot because I stalled and I waited to get all 6 of my energy, which by the way is split into 2 parts, kind of a phase 1, phase 2 of the battle where you only get 3 energy, then you get 3 more. But in this case, I waited and I got all 6. So we're going to utilize all of our attacks right now. In this case, it takes me to this guy with like 2172. In that case, this is a prime example of something I want to use Scam against. But we're just going to take a quick little look-see so I can run down each example and tell you what I'm thinking. Get a little inside view of the Grandmaster's mind here in Clan Wars. This one, so this is going to be multi-summon plus stats. So this is a great example of, I think, a very solid defense team, right? Because they're countering both Scam and stats. So that can make it really tough because they've got the multi-summons in the front that are going to be able to kind of kill your Scam units early on in the process, but then they still have heavy stats that they can rely on. Prime example of a good defense team. A good defense team, in my mind, can win 2 out of the 3 rock, paper, scissors. So good for him. Good job, Random. That's a very, very great example for my video here. Parasitic, here's a good example of somebody that just went with stats and keywords. So this can be pretty tough to handle. This is what I'm actually pretty worried about with what I built out, right? Because again, it's going to do a good job at countering Scam because of the cleaves that they have everywhere. So I've got to make sure that I'm positioning correctly. But it actually might be something I can take on with that Fiddle Scam. We'll take a look and decide. And again, this is one where you don't want to be overconfident, but you don't want to be blatantly underconfident either. But most important, don't waste an energy, right? That overconfidence is what I'd say to really focus on, because when you think you're going to win and you can't, you might have just completely wasted an energy that could have gotten points for the team. We've got DDDX8 here. This is probably... So this is a good example of what I was talking about, where if I had Get Over Here, that would be a great way for me to be able to counter a build like this, if we could swap those units around and not let them have their heavy units in the front. So I'd say this one generally kind of screams Scam, right? Because particularly this unit can be really hard to deal with raw stats or multi-summons. It's just worrisome to see those cleaves because that could be a problem. Again, great defense teams for reference because they're tackling 2 at once. They have high stats and they have multi-summons. I'm very nervous about that one. I don't know that I have anything that's going to do well against this. All right, we've got VJJ Watt, another problem build. All sorts of stuff going on here. You've got multi-summons, you've got solid stats, you've got multi-attackers, you've got rage. Yeah, not a fan of what I'm looking at here, folks. This is one of the problems with coming in late, is I'm kind of left with either what people couldn't deal with or the extra weak teams. So far, the only thing I'm super confident in is the one that gives us the least amount of points, which is this, because this is just asking to be eaten up by a deadly joke right now. Liquid Steel, this looks like something that's already been attacked. So here's a good example of somebody who either just had a super weak board and just wanted to contribute, or initially these guys had really strong stats and were hard to deal with. So this one, it could be a little scary for Scam because of her cleave here. But I think this one actually looks fairly nice when it comes to Scam, because Frostbite means absolutely nothing to Scam. And we got a big unit right up front that we can kill right from the get-go. And then we've got this guy Baron, another combination of stats and keywords. He has ranged on this. That's insane. J Papa's also already went against somebody. They actually set this up to be super easy. Both of these have, they look like they got hit by that bear that I used. So both of these have cursed. So they're going to kill themselves when they attack. So this is kind of a free board right now. So, that's tough. I just don't know if I want to save that for somebody else who's even weaker. I'm not thrilled with the stats that I have on my build, so maybe we snipe this and take it. I don't know. I'm still indecisive. In this case, a full board clear, meaning taking out the board, is going to be like 977 points. So as long as we kind of clear out the boards here, we only need a little bit of points in total. Which is what I'm trying to strategize on how I can help with that the most, right? Because the idea here is we've got an hour left. We don't have a full board cleared. We've got 18 energy remaining. They only have 3 energy remaining. So I'm going to try to set something up, and then I'm going to relentlessly bug everybody to get that last usage. So I think random is somebody I am generally fairly afraid of. Let me take a look. So I do have this build. That's got my blasting booty here. So when he attacks initially, he'll gain like 250. So if he can get that off, I do have multi-strike on him. And I also have the overwhelm. So he might actually do a fairly good job against this specifically. Yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good counter to random here. But he's only 44 points. I want to make sure I rack up as many points as I can right now for the team. But let's think about parasitic for a second. So when he attacks against this board initially, my Lucifers are going to go off first. So they could take one of the cleaves out, but assuming they don't, let's think worst case scenario, of course. He's going to hit one of these two. I'm going to then... He doesn't have multi-strike on it, does he? No, he doesn't. Okay, I think Fiddle Scam's going to work against this. So this is what we're going to start out with. It's going to be... God, it's going to be rough if I start out with a loss. So let's try this out with the Fiddle Scam build that you guys saw. Oh, I'm nervous. Okay, Lucifer, put in some work first. Okay, maybe chill. Stress me out. Okay, decent hit. Hit one of the... Nice. Immediately hit the multi-summon. Or immediately hit the cleave. Perfect. Okay. That's all we needed to make that work. Ooh, baby. Oh, man. Oh, man. Strategy in action. Aren't you guys impressed? God, if I was you, I'd subscribe right now. Oh, God. He's going to summon 2 copies. Man, we can't deal with this one. I've got to leave that for somebody else. If I had my barman or something like that, or if I had left. I made a mistake, which is another reason I decided to make this video for you guys. I used all 3 of my best dealers in the first portion of this week because I didn't even fully understand the rotation. So, again, a good example where I'd make sure you save 1 strong dealer for each clan war throughout that week. Don't use them all in one, because that left me with an inability to focus on stats, which is why I had to go multi-summon and scam. So this is another one that stands out. I do still see a world where I could do something cool with scam with this. Okay, we're going to give this one a shot. Now, I wanted to be able to show you guys everything, but so far it seems like the defense boards that I'm left against, this Fiddle Scam was just too crazy not to use. So we might use her for our first 3 attacks. I don't know yet. But again, the goal here, I've got, 5 energy remaining? And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left on the board. So I'm trying to make sure I can take out, basically 1 person with each energy. So I'm going to have to utilize other teams. So I need to think about that strategically too. I'm still really considering going against random with my Tuck build. So again, the reason I'm thinking random is because my blasting booty is guaranteed to attack twice. Again, I don't have very high stats because I used all my high stat characters. So if my blasting booty can take out their small stuff, really they should only have the big stuff left, and the rest of this build is scam. So I think that's our next call. I think we're going to use Tuck on this random. Okay, hit the guy in the front. That's a little annoying. Okay. There we go. Oh, man. See, and that's what I was worried about, was getting the attacks off. So we left a complete and utter freebie for somebody, which is so frustrating. So I'm going to definitely just barrage the Discord in the chat, because all we need somebody to do is start a fight against him. This guy has curse. The second he attacks, he dies. Oh, that's such a bummer. You know, that's just a timing thing. That's a placement thing. That was RNG. Just ever so slightly overconfident on that one. That's a waste. The whole idea with this week and this video was to show you what to do when you don't think you have very strong builds, right? We're still making an impact, and I didn't have anything high stat this week. If I showed you guys everything from last week, I had my barman with like 6k demons. That doesn't mean anything to a new player. So, you know, I guess I'm just kind of plugging for myself that, like, I'm not sitting here saying that, like, I'm thrilled with these. I'm just saying I'm excited to see me still doing something for the team, even though I felt very useless with the remaining dealers I had. Particularly the reason Fiddle's standing out to me is because I have these two Lucifers, which could kill each other, right? But with the Lucifers, because he only has 4 total minions on his board, Scam is going to feel really good. I wonder what his initial state looked like. Yeah, so he initially did have multiple minions, but the way that they've left it makes it really good for multi-summon Scam. So we're going to hit with our Fiddle on this one. I feel like I'm so serious for this. Clan Wars feels intense for me, I gotta tell you. Okay, we took that out early. We took that out early. Perfect. Okay, we're left with a decent board, and the last Killing Joke takes him. Whew. Okay, sweet. There's another contribution in the books. I'm really trying to consider how I feel about this board, this Baron, in comparison to my multi-summon Fiddle. The cleave is the only thing really frustrating. The ranged is pretty useless against the way that I have this set up. Oh, I'm nervous about this one. I think we're going to try it. This one's ready to go when I use my multi-summons. I can't do anything against VJJ. This is the only other one that stood out, and I think it's less realistic for us to beat that with any of our boards. And again, I want to contribute, but the last thing I want to do is be overconfident when I already wasted 1 energy. This one I'm going to leave because I want it for somebody who has like a completely useless board. And then Fork, I think, was the other one that I just don't see it working out. So at minimum, how many summons do I get on this? I should be able to guaranteed clear a board that doesn't have any summons, but this is only 1 extra summon. This one's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So see, that's got 9. That's got to be what I'm more worried about. We're going to try against Baron, and Baron's more points anyway. Oh man, I'm nervous. You guys are making me so nervous. Last Fiddle Scam use here. Okay, let's do it. Let's just do it. Okay, good start with the Lucifer. Great start. Okay, we missed a Killing Joke on that. There we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect example. You see, now that right there is a tough board to deal with, where I had a fairly low level dealer and not a lot of tenure. I think these 3 are out, unfortunately. So it looks like we're going to take on J Papas and Jaster. I think that's what we got to do. So let's start with J Papas. This is the one where I think multi-summons is the way to go. We just need to give him time to attack, and then we should be free. So here's where we get to utilize this multi-summon board. Wasn't super thrilled with this. It doesn't do phenomenal at anything, but it does have multiple summons, so that should be good enough to hold us over here. We just got to get to the point where they attack. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Exactly what I expected, right? Just got to stay alive long enough to let him use his curse, you know? Okay, and with the final energy, probably the least exciting, but I just think it's the only thing that makes sense here. Obviously, like I said, I could have done the initial random that I hit, but I'll leave that for somebody else. So Jaster is decent enough in stats that it might be difficult for somebody to deal with. So we're just going to throw out some final scam. In this case, my Tuck, because we already used all of our fiddle hits to finish things out. Ah. Okay. Boom, dunzos. So all said and done, we were able to kill Parasitic, Liquid Steel, Baron, J Papas, and Jaster. Right, so we were a contributor, right? I came in late, so I might have had better opportunity to rake in some more points. But even so, with a top 10 clan or whatever, a really, really strong clan, this was impressionable. This did something for the team, right? Not that I'm top of the list or anything, but if you look at the top attackers list currently, you see people that really raked it in for us and did a great job. That's what I got to be for the first half of this week. I was second on our team for highest stats, which is great. But again, low tier dealers, not confident in the builds, really had to focus in on the scam, wasn't really happy at all with my Mortimer build, and still we're showing up at number 15. We still got 468 points for the team, right? And if you scroll down lower and lower throughout throughout the rest of this list, I mean, these are great players. These are solid players, and we got to sit at number 15, all said and done. So this still made an impression. We still had an impact. We still can be a contributor. Now, with all that, I'm going to hop on Discord, tell somebody, for the love of God, go take out the random. You just have to enter the game and you win. Just enter it. God, I can't believe I did that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been your ultimate guide to Clan Wars from a Grandmaster's perspective. I'm very happy with the outcome here. I think that in the second half of the week, if I hadn't taken the time to understand Scam or Multi-Summon or generally that game of rock, paper, scissors in Clan Wars, I would have had a really bad time and I would have felt like, man, I'm just not good at the game. And I know for a fact that I'm good at the game. I appreciate you guys being here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Go watch those other videos. And until next time, guys, bye.